Hi, it's 2:21 in the morning Pacific Standard Time. I'm a bit of a night owl. I usually can't turn off my brain till 4 or 5, so I was looking at some old videos. In some of my more recent videos I talked about how it might be interesting to go look at some of the past stuff and see how I felt on various things and then come back and compare it. So I found one that I recorded in March of 2008. I was still living in Jacksonville, Florida at the time, and it was talking about coming to terms with my past and talk about how, like, it wasn't so hard in terms of bottom dysphoria for me, not feeling like a guy, but more in terms of that I had not been socialized as a male and had boyhood. It was like suddenly being this 22-year-old guy that was supposed to be this guy and this girl's boyfriend and this man in society, but he had never had a boyhood. So that was something I really struggled with then. I had a lot of things on my mind, like how to come to terms with my present male self having a past as a female. I was reading Jennifer Finney Boylan's book. She is a college professor at Colby College, and she's an M-to-F transsexual woman, so she's a trans woman. And she's wrote 2 really great books. This one's called I'm Looking Through You. It's her newest one. And she talks about being angry or upset, or at one point about how it's just hard for her not to be normal like everyone else. Like, she had this past growing up as a boy, and I understand that anger, you know. I think in one part of the book she was just looking at this straight couple embrace and kiss, and she was just mad and kicked the hotel room wall or whatever. And I understand that anger, just looking at cisgender people being like, you have it so easy. Like, you don't know 1 ounce of my struggle that I've been through. And it's hard not to be like everyone else and not to have that same past. For a few months or a month, I was really dysphoric about lower stuff, and it really fucked me out, and that's what separated me from bio males. But now it's more I didn't grow up one, and I have no experience being one. And I remember this was especially hard on me when I first started dating Kristen, because she's a straight woman, she's only dated heterosexual men. So I always felt like, am I like them? Am I man enough like them? Do I act like them? Do I do the same things they do? And what I've come to realize, what she's made me realize, is not all guys are the same, which I kind of knew, but I guess I had to prove to myself. And that she didn't want some manly marine type dude. She wanted the sensitive musician artist type. I just really had to come to terms with that, and I've become more comfortable realizing, okay, this is the type of guy I am, and I'm okay with that now, so I don't have to be proving anything to myself or her anymore, which I really never had to prove anything to her. But now it's just come to terms with the fact that I did not grow up male. How do you recreate a life? If I wanted to be stealth in some situations, which I am, it's like, do I say I was in the Boy Scouts, if I'm talking about the Girl Scouts? Do I create lies? And she talks about, this book, her memoir, is about living in a haunted house, literally, but also being haunted as a trans person by your former self, by the ghost of your former self. And I've always been trying to figure out the question, what happens to the person you were? Like, I was Christina. Where is she now? Like, is she still here, like, in Charles, or is she gone? It feels like, you know, I don't know. So I feel like I have to say goodbye to her somehow, or I did for a while. I just don't know. Is she a memory? Is she a ghost? That's an interesting way of looking at it, just kind of a cool way of thinking, that we're haunted by our former selves, which we are. Like, you can't get away from the fact that I was a little girl once. That sucks. You can't get away from the fact that I had a period at a time, and that I was once a girl like my girlfriend. It fucks me out that, you know, like I had the same part as my girlfriend or whatever, or that we once had similar parts, or, you know, or that I had boobs at one time, and that we both had to use the same bathroom at one point. It fucks me out. And, like, you know, I don't want to have to know that I was once a girl. That sucks. Like, I like just being a dude and have people know that. And also, this sometimes just keeps me from being stealth. So in some situations, I've been coming out more, like at work. I've told a few people, like the queer people at work, I've told them I'm trans, because we've been talking, and they realize I know a lot of their friends, a lot of what we call the gays, you know, so finally they go, what is your place in the gay community? So I just said I'm trans, and they've told no one, and it's really cool. We joke about it, because some things had come up before where the one person at work that didn't know, who was my friend 2 years previously, we were just laughing so hard, and they thought maybe something was up, but they're totally respectful. They never mess up on pronouns. It's almost like I'm more cool in their eyes because I have gone through this. And they're that type of people where it's like, no, you're more respected because you're trans, and that's cool. So it's a very healthy environment that I'm working in, and of course I have a very loving and supportive girlfriend who don't ever get the idea that she ever acts like, oh, you don't have a standard-sized penis, you suck. She is the most awesome woman. She never compares me to other men. She is awesome. So these are all my feelings, conclusions that I've come to myself. I guess
my ghost of Christina will haunt me until I can figure out how not to let her haunt me, or how to see myself as a little boy who was in this great big disguise.
It's not something I struggle with now. I can look back and say, oh yeah, that was me. That was me when I was a girl. That was me back then. We all have a past. For a lot of people, it's hard to look back at your middle school or your high school pictures, or just to think about that time in your life. And even if you're not trans, it can be difficult to look back at that person that you were, whether you experienced some kind of emotional hardship or something with your family or some kind of relational hardship. It can just be difficult to look at your past. Of course, for trans people, well, I'm trans, so I can't say this for sure, but I think it's 1,000 times more difficult to look at your past. But I think if you can get to a point in your transition when you're comfortable with yourself, you can also kind of learn to be comfortable with your past. Or maybe not learn, but just grow to just be like, yeah, that's who I was. It's part of who I am, and that's cool. I think as society becomes more accepting, we don't have to feel like we have to be stealth. Doesn't mean we have to feel like we have to be out to everyone either. But that if someone were to find out that it's okay, and it's like, yep, I was a little girl, but now I'm a man, and that's awesome. It's just made me part of who I am. So I don't really feel, I don't have that hardship anymore, struggling like, oh, I didn't grow up this little boy, so, you know, how do I be a man? In some videos I talked about not feeling grown up yet, and I feel maybe since I started transition when I was 20, that now that I'm 29, I'm kind of having my boyhood through my 20s. I find it interesting that I talk specifically about being haunted in that vlog from 2008, because when I was home in Florida living with my parents, so between the time I lived in San Francisco and here, so about 2011 to the beginning of 2013, being in my parents' house was this really weird experience for me, because it's where I had grown up, you know, spent the 3rd through 12th grades there until I went to college, and I just felt this strong presence, or this feeling, not presence like a ghost, just more feeling inside, like in my chest, that Christina, my old self, was still there, was still haunting me. Like I felt it was this nagging thing, this thing I hadn't dealt with, because in this old video I was talking about, like, where does she go? You know, she's still there. Is she inside me as Charles? You know, does she feel like, hey, you know, you kind of butted me out and let Charles take over? But, you know, I had no idea, so I remember being out really late one night in my parents' living room, and I was just feeling the presence of my old self really strongly, and I kind of made peace with my old self, if that makes sense. Like, I just kind of had to acknowledge that she was there and be like, okay, you know, there's no animosity, no hard feelings between my former self, my female self, and me now. I wasn't ousting Christina because of anything negative or bad she had done. It was just that I'm Charles, and I kind of want to make peace with my former ghost. And I don't know if this sounds crazy, it probably does, whatever, but I did that, and I kind of sealed it there and let it go. And I have not been haunted by her nearly as much, or at all. I don't really feel that kind of nagging, you know, just presence there that I did. It was very spiritually healing for me to do that. I think it just came at a point in time where it was just like too much. Like, I was just so me, but at the same time so tortured by this past, and I just had to acknowledge her, acknowledge it, my time in history as a female, honor it, respect it, and let it go. So I find that so interesting. I was saying that about being haunted, and that I physically and, you know, intentionally had to do that, had to say goodbye. Probably sounds crazy. Whatever. I'm not anything if I'm not honest. So, I don't know, it's really interesting to watch that, and it's not always easy to go back and watch these things, but I don't know, if you like this video, kind of how the back and forth, let me know, and I'll try to do some more kind of reflection stuff, but I'm trying to keep it short, so I'll keep my thoughts there. That's it. Alright, take care. Peace.